Think about what happens when a 25-year bitter, deeply personal rivalry just finally reaches its boiling point.
Right. You'd usually expect something messy.
Exactly.
Right.
Normally you expect a brawl. You expect lawyers getting involved or, I don't know, a screaming match in a parking lot somewhere.
Yeah, a total meltdown.
But what you rarely get is that entire quarter century of mutual resentment detonating on live television. And not as a fist fight, but as this absolute masterclass in comedy.
Well, because it fundamentally changes the nature of the confrontation, you know?
Yeah.
Like, instead of watching two people just lose control, you are watching two masters of their craft weaponizing their anger.
Yeah.
They're turning it into this precisely engineered, televised architecture.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because today, we are zeroing in on the historic May 10th, 2026 Netflix live roast of Kevin Hart.
A truly wild night.
It was insane. And to do this, we've pulled together a massive stack of sources for you listening. We've got the raw broadcast footage, the post-event interviews, the viral podcast clips that led up to the event, and of course, the frantic cultural commentary that followed.
Right. There was a lot of that.
So much. But our mission today isn't just to recap a comedy show. We're going to dissect the 25-year fracture between Kevin Hart and Katt Williams.
And analyze the brutal psychology of this specific feud.
Right, we want to figure out how a relentlessly mean comedy set transformed into one of the most raw, vulnerable moments in live broadcast history.
And to even begin to understand the psychological weight of what happened that night, you have to look at the atmosphere inside the Kia Forum in Inglewood right before the bomb went off.
Oh, yeah.
Because that room was not a safe space.
Not at all. I mean, it was packed to the rafters with heavy hitters. You had Tom Brady, Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos was there.
J-Lo.
Right, J-Lo, Seth Green, Pete Davidson, Lizzo. The energy was electric, but it was incredibly tense.
Everyone was going for the jugular from minute one.
Literally minute one. Like, Brady gets up and immediately juxtaposes his own 7 Super Bowl rings against Hart's 2 credits in the Ride Along franchise.
Ouch.
I know. It was just this relentless barrage targeting his height, his family history, his career pivots, and Hart is just sitting there absorbing it all, laughing it off.
Like a good sport.
Right. And then Regina Hall steps up to the microphone.
Which is where everything changes. Because what's fascinating here is she executes this massive tonal shift. Up until that exact moment, the roast had been loud, chaotic, super aggressive.
Yeah, total chaos.
And Hall brings the tempo down to an absolute crawl. She delivers this brilliant deadpan setup. She's pretending she is actively channeling communications from Kevin Hart's late mother, Nancy.
From beyond the grave.
Exactly, from beyond the grave.
It was so dark. She stands there, totally stone-faced, delivering these slow warnings from the afterlife. She says, his mom is begging him to stay out of Vegas, and that she can't watch his movies because they don't screen them in heaven.
But his dad loves them in hell.
Right. His late absentee dad is loving them down in hell. And the crowd is just roaring because it's so dark. But looking at the structure, the darkness is actually a decoy.
Oh, complete.
The entire bit is a mechanism to lower the audience's guard. She uses this quiet theatrical seance as this, like, structural Trojan horse to sneak a literal explosive device into the room.
Because at the end of this slow, methodical bit,
she introduces the ultimate unannounced guest, Katt Williams.
And what's fascinating here is how the secrecy of that moment fundamentally altered the audience's psychological state.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. If you put Katt Williams' name on a flyer for a Kevin Hart roast, the audience walks into the arena with their defenses already up.
Yeah, they'd be ready for it.
Right, they're bracing for a bloodbath. But by hiding him, by dropping him into the middle of a 3-hour marathon of standard insults, the crowd's armor was completely bypassed.
Wow, yeah.
The energy instantly pivoted from standard comedy appreciation to the collective realization that they were witnessing a cultural reckoning in real time.
I mean, I agree it was huge, but I'm going to push back on that slightly.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't buy that secrecy was the only way this could have worked. Like, if Netflix had announced Katt weeks in advance, the ratings would have tripled.
Right. Well, sure, the ratings, yeah.
And the tension would have been suffocating, absolutely. But wouldn't that have just raised the stakes? Are you arguing the secrecy changed the actual mechanics of the comedy?
I am, yeah. Because comedy requires a baseline of surprise to function.
Okay, I see what you mean.
If the audience spends 2 hours staring at Katt Williams sitting on the dais, watching him just silently stew while waiting for his turn, the tension sours.
Right, it gets awkward.
It becomes incredibly uncomfortable. By keeping him off stage until the precise moment his name was called, the release of tension was seismic. That's why the murmur in the crowd turned into a deafening roar.
They couldn't believe it was happening.
Everyone in that room immediately mapped 25 years of history onto those few seconds of him walking to the microphone.
And for you listening, to really grasp the sheer gravity of that walk to the mic, we have to look backward. We have to map the diverging career trajectories that created this Cold War back in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, we have to talk about the history.
We all know who these guys are, but their approaches to the industry couldn't have been more polar opposite.
Right. You had Katt, who was operating as this unbridled, fearless force on stage. I mean, he was explosive, culturally dominant, but notoriously unpredictable.
Yeah, the Pimp Chronicles era, Money Mike.
Exactly. And on the other side, you had Kevin Hart, who was methodically constructing a highly commercial, scalable, studio-approved brand. Hart was playing the corporate long game.
Which he won, financially speaking. But that strategic divergence is the absolute bedrock of their feud. Katt's foundational grievance wasn't just like that he disliked Hart's jokes.
No, it was much deeper.
His core accusation was that Hollywood executives actively passed him over for Hart because Hart was more controllable. He literally branded Hart an industry plant.
Which is heavy.
In the comedy world, that is a uniquely devastating accusation. It strips away the illusion of meritocracy. It tells a comedian, hey, your sweat equity means nothing. You are just a compliant asset.
It attacks the very authenticity that stand-up comedy is built upon. And for years, this grievance just simmered right below the surface. They operated in completely separate spheres until the flashpoints became unavoidable.
Like in 2018.
Right, when Katt publicly went after Tiffany Haddish, criticizing her rapid rise, Hart stepped right in front of it. He fiercely defended his night school co-star, which functionally drew a very public line in the sand.
But, I mean, that 2018 skirmish looks like child's play compared to what happened in January 2024.
Oh, the podcast.
The nuclear option. Katt Williams sits down for Shannon Sharpe's Club Shay podcast.
And breaks the internet.
Completely. The interview pulls 83 million views in less than a year. And Katt doesn't just throw out a few insults. He attempts to systematically dismantle Hart's legacy in real time.
He was surgical.
He really was. He claims nobody remembers going to a sold-out Kevin Hart show.
Yeah.
He explicitly alleges that the scripts for Hart's biggest movies were originally sitting on his own desk.
The precision of that podcast appearance is what's critical. Katt wasn't just venting, he was prosecuting a case in the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
And Hart's initial response to that was a study in PR restraint.
He went on ESPN, right?
Exactly. He went on an ESPN NBA broadcast, mocked the claims lightly with some fake fun facts, and tried to move on. He actively refused to go to war.
Which, looking at the timeline, I honestly think was a massive miscalculation by Hart's team.
You think so?
Definitely. I think Hart thought he was taking the high road, but Katt viewed that restraint as weakness. Katt even later admitted he mathematically calculated that podcast appearance to kill careers.
Wow.
He views comedy as a blood sport. So when he walks out onto that stage at the Kia Forum, he isn't just showing up to do 5 minutes of tight material. He is walking into his rival's living room to finish the job he started in 2024.
And he steps up to the podium and immediately demonstrates that he brought a quarter century of receipts. He doesn't play the standard roast game of lightly ribbing the target.
No light jabs here.
Not at all. His opening salvos are designed to invalidate Hart's entire presence. He looks Hart right in the eye and says, they had to start inviting your enemies, basically framing his own booking as proof of Hart's lack of gravitational pull.
That is so brutal.
He dismisses the format, reminds everyone he holds an Emmy, and announces he'll have to use his best acting skills just to pretend Hart is a goat for the Netflix cameras.
And then he starts deploying these layered multi-directional attacks. The Riyadh Comedy Festival joke is a perfect example of his structural genius.
Oh, break that down.
So Katt calls his appearance at this roast his Riyadh Comedy Festival, only one with a soul. That is a wild high-wire act.
Yeah, it really is.
He is simultaneously attacking Hart's controversial decision to perform in Saudi Arabia, while explicitly insulting the corporate soul of the Netflix event he is literally currently being paid to stand at.
And he gets a standing ovation from the executives in the room.
Right. It's unbelievable.
Because he taps into the cynical reality of the room and just says it out loud. And he follows that up with a line that strips the veneer off the entire 3-hour broadcast. He says, Kevin, you gonna hear some things tonight that you're not familiar with? Punchlines.
No.
That single word implies that everything Hart has done and everything the previous roasters just did was just empty celebrity noise.
And he hits the style theft accusation too, but he does it through hyperbole. He says, before he saw my act, he was a 6'3" white man.
Which is mathematically impossible.
Right. It's a visual impossibility, but it works so incredibly well because it takes a complex, bitter grievance about stolen personas and crystallizes it into an absurd, undeniable image.
But the apex of the set, the moment that truly tested the structural integrity of the room, was when he addressed the Hollywood puppet claim he popularized on Club Shay.
Oh man, this part.
He brings it up under the guise of an apology or a clarification. He says, What I mean was, the head of Netflix literally had his hand up Kevin's ass telling him what to do.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Ted Sarandos, the CEO of Netflix, is sitting in the front row.
Literally right there.
The sheer bravado required to look the billionaire paying for the global broadcast in the eye and call him a puppeteer is staggering.
It is the ultimate execution of the Katt Williams formula. It operates on a precise 3-step mechanism.
Okay, let's hear the formula.
Step 1, acknowledge a massive controversy. Step 2, feign a walkback, exploiting the audience's social conditioning to expect an apology.
Right, everyone thinks he's going to say sorry.
Exactly. And step 3, pull the rug out and double down on the original statement with exponentially more brutality. He weaponizes the audience's desire for resolution.
It's surgical. So he finishes the set, the crowd is in shock, vibrating with this incredible unreleased tension.
Yeah.
And then the entire narrative architecture of the night just completely flips.
Everything changes.
The target of the assassination jumps out of his seat. Kevin Hart completely breaks the format of the roast. He doesn't wait for his rebuttal turn at the end of the night.
Because he couldn't wait. This is the moment the dynamic shatters from a performance into genuine human vulnerability. Hart speaks directly to Williams, totally abandoning the comedic persona.
And the room goes dead quiet.
It's not the polite silence of an audience waiting for a punchline. It's a stunned, palpable silence.
Hart looks at him and says, "I'm a fan first." He offers an olive branch on live television. He asks him to be brothers, and they embrace.
A real hug.
Yes. You have two men who haven't shared oxygen in a room together in 25 years, hugging in front of the world. Everyone watching is losing their minds, posting crying emojis, declaring it this profound moment of cultural healing.
But if the broadcast had ended right there, it would have been incomplete.
Oh, for sure.
Because later in the evening, Hart takes the podium for his mandated rebuttal. And this is where he delivers a twist that violently recontextualizes that emotional embrace.
The ultimate fake out. Hart addresses the running joke of the night, that he is a terrible actor. He points directly to that beautiful, tear-jerking handshake with Katt Williams and tells the crowd, "That was some of the best acting I've ever done. I did not mean one word."
And the audience loses it all over again.
The emotional arc is just completely inverted.
It was necessary, though, for Hart to reclaim his territory. He then goes to work systematically dismantling Katt's foundational arguments, specifically the claim that Hart stole his movie roles.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do it with insults, he does it with empirical data, which is a fascinating comedic choice.
He really did.
He lists his blockbuster IP out loud. Jumanji, Ride Along, Central Intelligence, Think Like a Man, The Upside, About Last Night, Me Time Borderlands, Man from Toronto.
Why does that work so well? Like, as a listener, hearing a guy just read his IMDb page shouldn't be funny, but it hits like a hammer.
It works through the principle of comedic exhaustion.
Okay, what's that?
When Katt makes an abstract claim about stolen roles, it sounds plausible. But when Hart lists 9 massive, wildly different studio franchises, the sheer volume of data overwhelms the listener. It takes Katt's abstract argument and subjects it to mathematical reality.
That makes sense.
Hart asks the crowd if they honestly believe Katt turned all of those diverse roles down just to do a microscopic cameo in the movie Norbit.
And then he drops the logic bomb that breaks the entire premise. He says, "You think they want a pimp in Jumanji?"
It's devastating.
It really is, because it forces the audience to visualize Katt's unchangeable, chaotic persona inside a highly structured, family-friendly CGI jungle movie. The absurdity of Katt's own logic collapses on itself.
Exactly.
But just when you think Hart has completely incinerated the truce, he pivots one final time.
He abandons the jokes entirely. After mathematically defending his career, he drops his guard. He acknowledges that Katt showed the F word out.
Yeah, gave him his flowers.
He looks at his rival and declares with absolute finality that the beef is genuinely over.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this sequence reveals why the roast format is such an incredibly unique social construct. It might be the only arena left in modern culture where two people can process decades of genuine trauma, career anxiety, and deep-seated anger.
All while operating behind the absolute safety of punchlines.
Yes, exactly.
It creates a necessary paradox. They were able to be completely honest with each other, precisely because they were operating under the explicit guise of being facetious.
That's a great point.
The fake-out allowed Hart to defend his pride, which he had to do, but the final resolution allowed him to demonstrate ultimate growth. The format provided an escape hatch for both of their egos.
As the dust settles on this massive 3-hour spectacle, I keep returning to one specific comment Hart made during that rebuttal. He looked out at the crowd and said, "It's not good for all these white people to see two black people fighting. We're too small to have the beef that we had."
It's a brilliant piece of writing, because it functions on multiple levels simultaneously.
Right, on the surface, it's a self-deprecating physical joke.
Leaning into the endless shots taken at his height all night. But psychologically, it carries a profound thesis statement for the entire event. He's acknowledging that by publicly tearing each other apart for a quarter of a century, They weren't elevating themselves.
They were diminishing their own power.
Exactly. They were shrinking their cultural footprints.
And you could see the immediate effect of them stopping that diminishment. I mean, the public is practically foaming at the mouth what comes next. The speculation is completely out of control right now.
Oh, everywhere you look online.
Fans are demanding a joint Netflix special, a buddy comedy, a co-headlined global tour. If these two decided to share a stage again, they would crash ticketing servers worldwide.
But honestly, whether that physical collaboration ever materializes almost misses the point.
You think so?
I do. The point is that the landscape of comedy fundamentally shifted in that room. The paradigm moved away from a coward's Cold War hiding behind podcast microphones and selectively edited interview clips and returned to the power of face-to-face resolution.
So what does this all mean? Why should you, sitting in your car or at your desk right now, care about the mechanics of two multimillionaires hugging it out after telling brutal jokes?
It's a fair question.
I think the direct application for you is about the raw power of facing the music.
I agree completely. Look at the choices made here. Katt Williams chose to abandon the safety of his own platform. He could have stayed home, kept throwing stones from podcasts where he controls the narrative and the edit.
Yeah, easily.
Instead, he chose to stand on his rival's stage, under his rival's spotlight, and look him in the eye.
And Kevin Hart, instead of using his immense executive power to banish his loudest critic from his own party, opened the door, invited him in, and literally handed him a microphone.
It's the stark realization that direct conversation, maturity, and vulnerability ultimately carry far more weight than preserving your pride.
Even when they had to dress that vulnerability up in deeply offensive jokes about Ted Sarandos and Ride Along.
Right. The core human element, the desperation to be understood by your peer, was undeniable. They demonstrated that you cannot heal a profound fracture by simply ignoring it or talking around it.
You have to drag it into the light and expose it to the air.
Exactly.
We went from a 25-year bitter proxy war to a historic physical handshake on live television, entirely facilitated through the masterful mechanics of comedic misdirection. It was a bomb detonating, but the fallout was peace.
A really beautiful way to put it.
Which leaves me with a final thought for you to mull over. If it took a heavily publicized, multi-million-dollar live roast, surrounded by celebrities and streaming to millions, for two giants of industry to finally speak their truth and reconcile.
What does that say about us?
Right. What does that say about how incredibly difficult it is for us to be genuinely vulnerable in our own daily lives? We don't have Regina Hall to set the stage for us. Maybe we all need a little structured, brutal honesty to finally clear the air with the people we've been avoiding.
It's worth thinking about.
Maybe we just need the courage to walk into the room, drop the punchlines, and finally extend a hand.